Before this story begins, I want to ask you for something important. If you enjoy true stories that explore human emotions, complicated relationships, and the moments that quietly change our lives forever, then please subscribe to my channel and turn on notifications. These stories take time, honesty, and courage to tell, and your support helps them reach the people who may need them most. My name is Elena, and what I am about to share with you is something I carried in silence for nearly 3 years. This is not an easy story. It is not a clean story. And it is not a story where anyone walks away untouched. But it is a true story, one that completely changed how I understand love, loyalty, and the fragile boundaries we believe will never be crossed until they are. For almost 3 years, I kept this memory locked away inside me. I told myself that silence was a form of protection, for others, and for myself. But silence has a way of growing heavy. It presses on your chest at night. It follows you into quiet rooms. And eventually, it demands to be released. I'm telling this story now because I believe there is value in understanding how ordinary people can find themselves inside extraordinary situations. Situations they never imagined, never planned, and never believed they were capable of surviving. To understand how everything unraveled, you need to understand where it began. The house sat on just over 12 acres of rolling land in upstate New York, tucked away from the noise of the world. It was a converted farmhouse, old bones, thick wooden beams, and stone walls that seemed to hold decades of quiet memories. Marcus and I bought it 5 years earlier, back when optimism came easily. We were full of plans, full of belief that we were building something permanent. The main house had soaring vaulted ceilings, enormous west-facing bay windows, and a wraparound porch where sunsets painted the sky in deep oranges and bruised purples. In the evenings, you could sit there with a glass of wine and feel as though the world had slowed down just for you. We renovated carefully. We kept the original beams. We restored the stone fireplace. Everything else was updated with intention, modern comfort wrapped in history. From almost every room, you could see the woods. I thought that house was our sanctuary. I was wrong. By the time this story begins, Marcus and I had been together 8 years. We didn't meet in some dramatic, cinematic way. We met at a professional conference, 2 people not looking for anything serious. Marcus had just come out of a divorce that left him wary of permanence. His first marriage ended painfully, and the aftermath had reshaped how he approached commitment. I was leaving behind a long-term relationship that had quietly expired. No betrayal. No explosión. Just exhaustion. There was no lightning bolt between us. No overwhelming pasión. There was recognition. We both understood disappointment. We both knew what it felt like to try, and fail, at building a life with someone. And because of that, we moved slowly, carefully, with intention. We didn't rush into promises. We constructed our relationship piece by piece, believing that if we were cautious enough, thoughtful enough, we could avoid repeating old mistakes. Marcus worked in commercial real estate development, a career that demanded travel. About 1 week every month, sometimes more, he was gone. I knew this before I committed to him. I told myself I had accepted it. But distance does something subtle to a relationship. It doesn't break things loudly. It creates quiet spaces, spaces where doubt can stretch out and grow. Absence gives your thoughts too much room. I loved him, and I believed love would be enough. I worked as a freelance consultant for nonprofits, helping organizations design fundraising strategies and donor programs. My work mattered, but it was flexible. That flexibility slowly shaped my life around Marcus's absences. When he traveled, I worked more. When he returned, I made space. At the time, it felt like compromise. Looking back, it feels like constant adjustment. The story truly begins on a Saturday morning in early October. Autumn was just beginning to announce itself. Crisp mornings, warm afternoons, the smell of fallen leaves carried faintly through the air. Marcus left around 6 a.m., driving north for a development meeting that could last a week or longer. He kissed me goodbye before dawn, like he always did. I remember the smell of his cologne mixed with coffee. I remember thinking, I should stay awake this time. I didn't. By 8 a.m., I was alone in the house, and the silence felt different. Not empty. I couldn't have explained it then, But something about that morning felt like the universe had cleared space for something I couldn't yet name that I decided to reorganize the master bedroom. A task I had been avoiding for weeks. Marcus's closet was a disaster. Mine wasn't much better. I pulled on an old college sweater, leggings, tied my hair into a loose bun, and turned on music. A playlist I call contemplative. Soft piano. Ambientonas. The music filled the room as I worked, and time began to blur. That's when I need to tell you about Thomas. Thomas was Marcus's son from his first marriage. He was born during a brief chapter of Marcus's life. A time when Marcus himself was still becoming who he was. The marriage didn't last long. The divorce was messy, and custody became complicated. Thomas eventually moved across the country with his mother. They stayed connected, but distance leaves scars. By the time this story takes place, Thomas was 27 years old. He had just completed his undergraduate degree and had been accepted into a prestigious graduate program in environmental science in London. Before moving overseas, he asked if he could stay with us for 3 weeks. Marcus was thrilled. I agreed, because supporting Marcus felt like the right thing to do. Thomas was still asleep when Marcus left. By mid-morning, I heard movement downstairs. Coffee brewing, footsteps, the quiet rhythm of someone settling into the day. Around 10 a.m., footsteps approached the bedroom. I was standing on a step stool, reaching for boxes on the highest shelf, when I heard him in the doorway. I turned too quickly and nearly lost my balance. "Hey," I said, steadying myself. He looked unsure, like he hadn't decided whether approaching me was a good idea. "I heard the music," he said. "I thought maybe you could use some help." Something about his tone, gentle, hesitant, made me smile. And I said yes. We worked for hours. Sorting, lifting, organizing. The conversation flowed easily, not forced, not intimate. Just two people sharing space. He talked about London, about his research, about being excited and terrified all at once. I listened. Nothing felt wrong. Until it did. It happened around 1 p.m. I was on the stool again, reaching for a heavy box, careless with my footing. My foot slipped. That sick, weightless moment of falling hit me, and then didn't. Thomas caught me, his arms around my waist, his chest against my back. Time stopped. I turned in his arms. Our faces were close, too close, and in that moment everything shifted. For a brief second, neither of us moved. Thomas's arms were still around my waist, firm and steady, holding me upright as if gravity itself had paused to reconsider its decision. My heart was pounding so loudly I was sure he could hear it. I could feel his breath against my neck, warm and uneven. "You scared me," he whispered. The way he said it, not joking, not casual, made my stomach twist. I turned slowly, carefully, still held in place by his arms. When I faced him, the distance between us was dangerously small. Close enough that I could see the faint scar on his chin, the tiny crease between his eyebrows when he was concentrating, the way the sunlight coming through the window caught in his hazel eyes. Something passed between us in that instant. Not confusion, not curiosity, recognition. It was as if a door had opened inside me, a door I didn't know existed and never meant to walk through. The attraction hit me without warning, sharp and overwhelming, stealing the air from my lungs. And the most terrifying part was knowing, instantly, unmistakably, that he felt it too. I saw it in his eyes. The same shock, the same realization, the same internal panic colliding with something dangerously close to desire. I should have stepped back. Every value I believed I lived by demanded it. But I didn't. Thomas loosened his grip slightly, as if giving me an opening to move away. I didn't take it. Instead, my hands rested on his shoulders, not pushing, not pulling, just there. "Elena," he said quietly. The way he said my name, unsure, reverent, almost disbelieving, cracked something open inside me. I didn't answer. I closed the space between us. He met me halfway. When our lips touched, it was soft at first, hesitant, fragile, like both of us were waiting for the other to stop it. But no one did. The kiss deepened, urgency rising faster than either of us could process. His hands moved into my hair. Mine pressed against his back. Everything else vanished. The step stool. The boxes. The house. The life I had before that moment. All of it disappeared under the weight of what we were doing. Something impossibly wrong and unbearably real that we moved to the bed without speaking. It felt unreal, like watching myself from outside my body, powerless to intervene. Our movements were frantic but careful, driven by emotion rather than intention. Thomas was gentle, almost reverent, as if he was terrified of doing something that would shatter the moment. That gentleness made it worse. It made it feel less like a mistake and more like something that had always been waiting to happen. I didn't think about Marcus. I didn't think about consequences. I existed only inside sensation, touch, breath, heat, suspended in a moment I knew I would regret but could not stop. When it was over, reality returned slowly. We lay there in the dim afternoon light, the soft classical music still playing from the speaker, absurdly calm, painfully inappropriate. I could feel his heartbeat against my back. And then guilt crashed in like cold water. "Oh my God," I whispered. "What did we just do?" Thomas didn't answer right away. His body had gone tense, like the weight of understanding had settled onto his chest. "We made a mistake," he finally said, but his voice didn't fully believe it. I sat up abruptly, grabbing my sweater, pulling it on with shaking hands. My skin felt different, as if something fundamental had been altered. "This can't happen again," I said. "This is insane." He ran a hand through his hair, staring at the floor. "I didn't plan this," he said. "I didn't come up here expecting anything." "Neither did I replied. And somehow that made it worse. The rest of the day felt like walking through broken glass. We avoided each other completely. He disappeared into the guest room. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring out at the woods, trying to understand how everything had changed in less than an hour. I showered, scrubbing my skin as if I could wash away memory. I changed clothes. I cooked dinner, even though neither of us was hungry, because pretending things were normal felt safer than acknowledging the truth. That evening Marcus called. I answered. And I lied. I told him Thomas had helped me organize. I told him it had been a productive day. I listened as he said how glad he was that his son seemed comfortable with me. Each word landed like a blow. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay beside Marcus's empty side of the bed, staring at the ceiling as guilt and longing battled inside me. I wanted to forget. I wanted to undo. And horrifyingly, part of me wanted to go back. The days that followed were unbearable. Thomas was supposed to stay 3 weeks. Every interaction became a test of self-control. We avoided eye contact. We avoided rooms. We avoided silence, because silence was dangerous. And yet sometimes our eyes met. And everything we were pretending not to feel surfaced again. Marcus called daily. He was happy, relaxed, proud, and I became very good at lying. A week later, Marcus suggested Thomas and I go out to dinner together. I wanted to say no, but I didn't. At first, we barely spoke. Then Thomas began talking about his research, his dreams, his fears. As I listened, something softened inside me, not desire, but genuine admiration. "You're going to do amazing things," I told him. He looked at me with quiet pain. "I wish I could stop thinking about you," he said. The world narrowed to that moment. "So what do we do?" he asked. I didn't have an answer, because there was no good one. That we agreed to endure it, one day at a time. But endurance is exhausting. When Marcus returned for a weekend, the guilt became unbearable. His affection felt like accusation. His trust felt like a burden I didn't deserve. I almost told him. I didn't. 2 days before Thomas was set to leave for London, I found him sitting in the backyard, staring at the trees. "We need to talk," I said. This time we didn't avoid the truth. What we felt was real. But real didn't mean right. And love didn't excuse betrayal. As the sun set, we accepted what had to happen. Not confession. Not continuation. Acceptance. The last day was quiet. At the airport, Thomas hugged Marcus tightly. Then he hugged me, careful, restrained, full of everything we couldn't say. "I'll never forget you," he said. "I'll never forget you either," I replied. And then he was gone.